that was my first red flag, and I was like, achievement, excellence, you know. I was like, demos. I was broke. I was broke. Right? Greetings everyone, and welcome to the realities of real estate and more. So today I'm going to be speaking about my journey in entrepreneurship, right? From a very young age, I knew, I was like, when everyone said, when I grow up, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, you know, I always knew that I want to own my own business one day, right? And at the time, as a young girl in a small town in the Eastern Cape, I did not have a name to it. So me owning a business, I could not articulate it and say, I want to become an entrepreneur, right? But obviously, growing up, I would have hustles here and there. So I think my first hustle came when I was in high school, where I would, so in grade 9, I used to sell my textbooks to, grade 9, sell your previous year's textbooks to the person going grade 8, right? So I'd buy my textbooks brand new. I spent the whole year not writing, not highlighting, add a lot of contact, and I knew that I could sell them at a higher value come year end, right? And fair enough, my textbooks would go. I would never sit with textbooks at the end of the year. All of them would sell. Then I realized my friends are actually too lazy to sell their own textbooks, right? So by the time I was in grade 10, so now it's grade 10, I was selling grade 9 textbooks, but now I had roped in my friends. I was like, friend, if I sell your textbooks on your behalf, I'll give you your money, but I'm going to charge a commission, right? I'm going to get a percentage of the sale. I mean, it made sense to them because they'd rather have some money than no money at all, because year in, year out, they would be left with textbooks that they couldn't sell. And then we got to grade 11. So in grade 11, so you start choosing your subjects from grade 10, 11 and 12, right? From grade 10. So it then becomes very difficult to find a person who does the same combination of your own subjects, of the subjects that you're doing, right? So then in grade 11, I was like, you know what? I am going to create these packages, right? So there was something called the straight 6. So that's if you did science, life science, and accounting. And then, you know, I'd package all of the books in nice packages. If you buy this in bulk, these are the specials that you get. Or, so I would sell, I would market. It was called Book Solutions, I remember. I would market these books. I even used to sell, I used to buy study guides. I would sell those as well. Past papers, I would sell that. I package it nicely and call it the accounting package. And I would sell that as well. By the time I was in matric, I was raking in that money. Everyone knew if they wanted textbooks, they had to come to me. And I was sitting with like a pile of people's textbooks. I had to remember whose textbooks belong to who and how much I'm going to charge and how much. So by the end of matric, you know, my end of matric year, I made a lot of money. So that was my first interaction with me identifying a pain point, trying to solve that pain point, right? So that's really my first business. I would call that a success, because by the end of matric, I had even boys from my brother's school coming to me for textbooks, which was quite interesting. And then towards the end of my schooling career, obviously now you have to choose what you're gonna do. And to be honest, I was like, I knew I was never gonna be a CA. But I was good with numbers and I wanted to own my own business. Then also came the time where you have to choose. Now, you have to find bursaries as well. So I remember there's one girl in my school who was very I was really inspired by her because she was clever. Okay, in high school, you're always inspired by the cleverest person. And I'm a person who strives for excellence. Any and everything I do with excellence, right? You cannot attach my name to mediocre things, right? So that girl, so I used to follow her religiously from, so she was in matric when I was in grade 8. So grade 9, grade 10, grade 11, I used to follow her journey as to what she was doing after school. And she then, she used to post pictures, man. And she was used to wear this particular shirt which had a specific logo, and she would tag this company, and this was like Ellen Gray Orbis Foundation. Like, oh, what is this Ellen Gray Orbis Foundation? And I'm in grade 9, I think it was, no, grade 10. That's when I first came about it, and I was like, this is a scholarship. When I did my research, it was a scholarship that looks for high impact entrepreneurs. And that's when I came across the word entrepreneurship. Okay, maybe I'm lying because we learn about entrepreneurship in EMS. What is EMS? Economic Management Studies, right? So in economic management studies, they call it the 4 factors. An entrepreneur is someone who owns the 4 factors of production. It's food, labor. No, what is it? What is the definition? It's land, labor, and capital, right? Land, labor, and capital, I think. But it's 4. I can't remember the 4th one now. And that's what they call an entrepreneur. And I was like, land, labor, capital. What the hell does that even mean, right? So I mean, you learn these things and you just parrot learning them, so you can get them right. But my first interaction with it was when I learned of high impact entrepreneurs who strive for having a spirit of significance, achievement, excellence. I was like, demos. And that's when grade 10, I knew. The day matric, I am applying for this Ellen Gray scholarship, right? Yeah. At the time, I wasn't thinking, I'm from a small town, like no one cares about him. Like, this lady got in and her name was Sia Sangahai. If you're watching, hey. She got in. If she can get in, I'ma get in too, honey. Okay. So the beginning of my matric year came, and I was on that Ellen Gray Orbis website. When are they opening? The day the applications opened, I downloaded that form, printed it out, and I think at the time, I don't know how, you still had to post your entire application to them. I don't know how it works now. They probably have online things. But if you want to know more about the Ellen Gray Orbis Foundation, please head over to my friend's channel, I Know You Know, by Tsepang, and she explains in detail what the Ellen Gray Orbis Foundation is and how to apply. Thank you. So I was faced with this 10-page application. I was like, that could have deterred me, right? But I was like, you know what? I need to get into this foundation. So I had a goal. I'm going to do, I think it was a page a day so that I can finish it. Yeah, I think it was a page a day. I used to do a page a day and it was thorough. And when I say a page a day, those things were like an essay. There was an essay question in almost every page, right? But anyway, I think I played Russian roulette with my life. I applied to only 2 universities and to 3 scholarships, and I was like, one of these things is gonna get me through. Maybe because I was a top student, I had extracurricular activities, I had a good resume. if we put it that way, right? So I applied to WITS and what's this place? UCT. Russian roulette, right? And in terms of scholarships, I applied for Old Mutual, I applied for the Ellen Gray Orbis Foundation, and I think I applied for Telkom? Yeah, I think it was Telkom. Those were the 3 scholarships I applied for. And I was like, one of these it must materialize, right? Came April, I got a call back for Ellen Gray Orbis. This is the one that I actually want. The interview was a very, very difficult thing I'd ever had encountered in my life. So the interview stage was really grueling. My brain was on fire. At that point, so the interview was in East London. You meet pupils. You meet pupils from your Clarendon, your Selborne, your Stirlings, the top East London schools. So obviously it's quite intimidating from me coming from, my little town, right? And then the interview was in April. From that stage, you get a selection camp, and the selection camp was in October. Long behold, honey, I made it to selection camp, Demos. Selection camp. Now we get to selection camp, and you're like, oh my goodness me, right? We met. Now at selection camp, I would say that was arguably the top students in the country, really. Most of them went to schools that start with Saint. And if someone says this school starts with Saint, honey, it's chai. Those people who come from schools Saint something, it's a private school, At least, I also had bragging rights in that I did 8 subjects. I could have conversation over lunch. It's like, because people would ask you, oh, so how many? I do 9. I was like, oh, I do 8. You feel better about yourself because you're also above normal, right? Maybe I'm toxic for saying that. But anyway, I felt that that was the only place where I felt like, nam dikona. But otherwise, you get to selection camp and you really realize hectic. This is the cream of the crop of the country, and you're like, and I kid you not, some of the people that I met at selection camp were the people that I saw on TV when the results were announced. So it's really the cream of the crop of the country. But anyway, and obviously I felt really small because hello, I am from the tiny little Eastern Cape where no one knows the town, and you're like, how the hell am I going to make it into this scholarship? But long behold, on the 22nd of December 2015, I got that call. That call really changed my life. It changed, I think, the trajectory of my life, honestly. Right, so I get to UCT 2016. It's really scary and also an exciting time. And then we meet, so the Ellen Gray Orbis, only to find out that the Ellen Gray Orbis Foundation is just more than a scholarship, right? It really cultivates your entrepreneurial thinking. We go to workshops, we go to dialogue sessions, we go to a lot. It really cultivates your brain to become a high impact leader and entrepreneur. Right, so second year, that's when I then ventured into my second business. It was really a tech startup that uses technology to somewhat address safety in the country. So the idea was to have a hardware that allows you to call for help without needing your cell phone, right? Because the cell phone is the first thing perpetrators take from you. At the time, there weren't many in the market, right? And yeah, at the time, there weren't many in the market. So by the time I walked away from it, there were quite a lot of players. That startup in its own taught me life, okay? the lessons learned there, I can pitching. I've learned proposal writing for grant funding and all of that. I've learned not every funding you get is funding that you should take. I mean, the list is endless, right? I ran that startup for 4 years before I stepped away. Why did I step away? I felt it had ran its course, right? One thing, golden rule of entrepreneurship, you fall in love with the problem and not your solution, because your solution can constantly change, right? So I looked at the problem and I was like, how many players are in this market? There were quite a lot of players coming in, right? Who had more capital than me, who had more resources than I could ever have at the time. And I was like, you know what, there's someone else solving this problem. I'm happy to walk away. Number two, it was no longer self-fulfilling, because I was broke. I was broke, right? It's nice in varsity to start a business because you have a scholarship that pays for accommodation, gives you a stipend every month as well. You don't have bills to pay. But in the real world, there are bills to pay. And the funding that I had received was funding the development of the tech, but not my living expenses. So I mean, I got to a point was like, I'm too young for these problems. One thing about me, I am expensive, right? I love things. I am not going to be miserable, right? So if I don't have money, I cannot think. I wasn't going to subject myself to that torture any longer. So that was the journey. But along the journey, you meet people. And another lesson I think you should take away from this is that not everyone that you meet has your best interest at heart, right? Because I remember I was invited to this lunch for this entrepreneurship program, right? So when you're running a startup, there are various programs that you are advised to apply to, because these programs either unlock market access or they unlock more funding, right? So I was invited to this lunch, and this lunch said I must bring 3 other women, right? And as a woman, you get to also realize, again, sometimes people select you for things because you're a front. And as much as it's hard to say this, you need to be aware of these scams, right? Not everyone has your best interest at heart, right? Fronting is real, okay? Okay. So they asked me to bring 3 other women, right? So I brought 3 other women that I knew. But I mean, I got to this place, everyone in this company had a face beat with lashes, with shorts, and the women had short skirts. That was my first red flag, and I was like, I get right? So my immediate friends work at Deloitte, right? And I usually have this thing of, what would Deloitte do? You know, I'm like, any corporate wouldn't this. Okay, it could be corporate company culture, but it's a bit suspicious. That's suspicious. That's suspicious. You know. So they invited us up. We went to the rooftop of this building, and they had a full buffet. They fed us, and I'm like, but I mean, they had this whole decor set up, right? And all of the other ladies that were invited for this program. So now we were served our food, right? Everything was going fine, no problem. Then, when I started to take my utensils, what are they utensils, to start eating, and this lady across the table also started eating, and then suddenly she was like, "I'm so sorry, Chairman, for eating before you." I was like, what do you mean? In what world do you have to apologize for eating first? That was the other red flag for me. And I realized the other ladies weren't noticing what I was noticing. Maybe because I have a higher sense of not a higher sense of intuition, but my guard is always up. Maybe I'm paranoid, but you know what? Then the lady, the head of this entrepreneurship program, who's a lady, was like, ladies, I'm so glad you've decided to join this entrepreneurship program. There's a lot of learning that's going to happen. First things first, I would suggest all of you become friends, because you're going to start losing friends in the outside world. And I was like, well, that's suspicious. That doesn't sound right. Then she also said, this is a full intensive program. You're going to be required to be here from 9 till 4 every day. And I'm like, she's telling you to quit your job. This is what I'm thinking inside. And then she said, on Thursdays, we're going to have secret meetings with the founder at a secret location. And I was like, something is hitting the water here, because why am I going to go to a secret meeting at a secret location where the founder is a man? Maybe I'm being paranoid. Maybe it's Maybelline, because that didn't sound right. That's suspicious. That's suspicious for me. And then the nail on the coffin was when she said, we in this company, we work differently from other companies. If we want to decide that we want to go to Paris, we go to Paris. That was the nail on the coffin for me, because you know, that's suspicious. And at that point, I was just eating the food just to get out of there, to finish, right? In fact, I couldn't even finish the lunch. I actually excused myself and I said, I have another meeting to get to. That night, I called the two ladies I came with, and I said, guys, I'm not joining this program because here are the red flags. If you want to join this program, please do so at your own accord, but I want no parts. And one of the ladies was actually very grateful that I showed them, I would say, highlighted those red flags, because she was genuinely excited for this opportunity. The other lady decided that she was going to go ahead with the program. I don't know what happened to her. She actually disappeared from the radar for like a year or two. Yeah, she disappeared for like 2 years. She resurfaced recently this year, and I was like, that's suspicious. But anyway, again, not everyone that comes to you offering help is actually going to give you help. Sometimes it's really for their own personal agenda, right? So I'm still on this journey of entrepreneurship. It's still long, right? That's just sharing my journey thus far, where I am now. So I left that start. When I walked away from a startup, I took a year not being involved aggressively in entrepreneurship, taking a step away from, this hustle culture where people say, you gotta wake up, you gotta be part of the 5 a.m. club. If you're not waking up at 5 a.m., you're wasting your time. We all have the same 24 hours. It's what you do with that 24 hours that matters. We don't all have the same 24 hours, just saying. Yeah, so that's just where I am. I wanted to share that. Please comment down below if you want me to share other nuggets of entrepreneurship, a specific video of speaking about a topic in entrepreneurship. But yeah, in taking a year off, that's when I started cycling. Very lovely journey, by the way. Yeah, man, I hope to create, I hope to walk this journey with you this time, and, you know, be vulnerable. Apparently, I'm not vulnerable enough. Apparently, growth happens when you're vulnerable. Same being because I find it very hard to be vulnerable, you know. But anyway, that's a story for another day. And thank you for watching the realities of real estate and more. Please don't forget to subscribe.